Hi, welcome to the Diplomatic Notes. I'm here in India. I've come down here to meet Dr. Ramamirtham. Gopal is the director of the Patil University School of Management, one of the leading business schools in India. To just share you a little bit about Dr. Gopal, he was also my doctoral supervisor. Now, where is it that I learned from him? His work was especially into the field of sustainable competitive advantage. That was the time period when I learned what is competitive advantage, what is sustainable competitive advantage. Now, who's Dr. Gopal? He was working with the Siemens corporate planning division for switch gears back then in Munich in the 1980s. And then he's been a visiting professor with different universities in India, in the United States, in Europe. He's done his postdoctorate in the field of sustainable competitive advantage. Now, before I would love to share about what is competitive advantage and sustainable competitive advantage and where strategies fall into industries, I would love to ask more questions relating to the same thing. So, please welcome down. And what is it that first I would love to ask you is, you've done this work on competitive advantage. Now, you did this in the 1980s and the 1990s, when that was the time period when Michael Porter's book of competitive advantage came down. How did you, at that time period, get into this particular area of research focus?
Michael Porter's book came into existence somewhere in the 90s, right? But then that book is essentially translating what we in industry used to always practice. Now, if you look at Michael Porter's competitive advantage, it talks of many things, and more importantly, it talks about the 5 force field model, which is very, very critical for an industry. Now, look at the various aspects of the 5 force field model. It talks about environment or entry barriers, then it talks about supplier barriers, then it talks about demand supply, that means the customer barriers. It talks about substitution, competitiveness. Now, all these things, we were actually using them, but we never called them as the Porter's 5 force field model. We always talked in terms of a feasibility report, where this formed part of the feasibility report, and a little bit more where we talk about the financial angles. So this is one aspect of this. The second thing is, when you look at competitive advantage itself, from where do you get that competitive advantage? Competitive advantage comes from different aspects when you manufacture the product. It could be from the manufacturing side. It could be giving you a higher value to the customer, which is more important. You could have competitiveness on the pricing. You could have competitiveness on the channels that you build. You could have competitiveness on the communications that you do. Now, typically, I'll give you one example of how this competitiveness came into existence. This is found mainly in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, in these countries. We have this concept of a sachet coming in. Now, why did that concept of a sachet came in? Look at the whole concept. It's so beautiful. A poor person, if you look at India, for example, almost 60% of the people are below the poverty line. And they cannot afford, for example, to have a shampoo to wash their head, because the shampoo bottle will cost you, when I say 250 rupees, it means about 2.5 euros approximately. Now, even that 2.5 euros for such a person is a huge amount of money. But that person also wants to shampoo his hair. And therefore, the concept came in a very small way. Let's have a small package, which costs about 10 rupees or even sometimes 1 rupee per package you get it. Now you look at 1 rupee per package, divided by 100, it costs about 0.1 euro. And what did you do? You had an edge over the others. But it was not a sustainable competitive advantage. You had an edge, but it was not a sustainable competitive advantage, because you could easily copy it from somebody. And then this whole thing went down to the masses. People accepted it, people bought it. And the companies made money by selling it in large numbers. Rather than selling one bottle of 1 liter or half a liter, they said, we will sell these small packages which a person can put it in his pocket and just go. Or the smaller public, the people below the poverty line can then also use it. This is one method of creating a competitive advantage through the channel method. The other thing which is also very important, Vivek, which you should know is competitive advantage comes also from the fact that I give you a better value for your product. And what do you mean by value? Value is nothing but benefit to price ratio. That means what is the benefit that the customer gets compared to what is the benefit, what is the price that he is paying. Now, when you talk about consumer goods, basically you're talking about brandings and all this. But when you talk of industrial goods, the competitive advantage or the value comes in by what additional features and what cost benefits you're giving to the customer compared to your major competitor. And that's where it is very critical for you. Now, if you cannot give this competitive, then you're also one of the also ran. You move one step further. Now, how do you get this competitiveness? There are two aspects of this. It's a very important topic and it's a nice topic that you've raised. Because competitiveness comes from two basic angles. One, you could have a cost competitiveness coming in, whereby you bring down your price, you bring down your cost price. And please remember, pricing a price of a product to any customer is actually equal to cost plus profits. And in my lectures, when I talk to my students, I always use the word cost is a reality, price is a politics. Why? Because I can vary my price the way I want with which customer I want to give. I can give somebody a 10% discount, I can give somebody a 5% discount, depending on what quantities he's buying, depending on several of the factors. But I incur a certain cost. Now, if you look at India's cost structure is high because we don't manufacture goods in a large volume. If you want to bring your cost down, especially for a consumer goods, if you want to bring your cost down, then you got to have volumes with you. And this is where China scores over you. China has huge volumes. I mean, in fact, if we look at Chinese, I've been to Taiwan, not to China, but I've been to Taiwan earlier. Their production, what we require in India, is just about 1 day or 2 days or 3 days production. Now, with that level of competitiveness, their cost of production is actually 1/10, 1/20th of what we sell. And therefore, when we try to export out, we lose out because we don't have that cost advantage. The second area where you can have cost advantage is through innovation. Because when you start innovating, you're being technologically higher up. And the innovations in our country today, I must say, are not basically to the level which is there in Germany or which is there in US or which is there in other countries. We still cater to our own markets, the domestic markets. We are not really geared up to cater to the external world. And that is where we find a big problem. And that's why we are struggling to reach 400 billion, 500 billion export market. Whereas if we look at China, China alone sells 7,000 billion worth of goods to a country like India. And $15,000 billion of goods to US. So where are we with 500 billion or 600 billion export, and where is Chinese, and how do they achieve it? Only because of this. And when you talk of sustainable, use the word sustainable also. Sustainable means you should not copy it for a long period of time. And a typical example is with Viagra. If you look at Viagra development which took place, Pfizer wanted it to be a product which is initially going to compete with somebody with your BP medicine, the blood pressure medicine. And then these guys came up with a product. They said, here it is good. The R&D guys came up and said, here it is good. It's good to tackle the BP. And you can't enter the market without doing a clinical trial. So when they did a clinical trial, the guys who got the medicine, the molecule as it is called in pharma industry, the guys who got the molecule, they said, sir, what you're saying is all very nice, but we are getting sexually aroused. So the management of Pfizer thought there's something wrong out here. Let's do it once again. So they repeated the test and again they found the same thing coming up. Then they did it on mice, the pigs and the entire process of clinical trials. And then again they found the same thing happening. And therefore the question was, where do I sell this product? Do I position it as a Viagra product, as a product which is for sexual arousement, or do I sell it as a product as a BP? And in the BP market, there's huge number of competition. So they positioned it as a product which is good for sexual arousement, and they charge 200, almost a very, very high amount, something like about $200 for US dollars for about 2 tablets. And nobody could copy it because of the patent rules. And therefore they got a sustainable advantage for the next 10 years or the life of the patent. And once it came out of the patent, everybody copied it because the market is so huge. And people started making money. And when everybody copies it, and when you don't have any sustainability, what happens is the price of the product starts coming down, the cost starts coming down. And then it becomes a generic product. And in India, for example, we have different varieties, different brands of the same product called as Viagra in India, available for very, 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 very low price. That's the advantage of sustainable competitor. Sustainable competitor advantage means advantage over a period of time. And where do you get that advantage? You can get it either through innovations, either in the product or by promotion aspects. But these are not, promotion and channels are not going to give you sustainable for a longer period of time. They might give you an advantage for 1 or 2 years, but it's basically product innovation which is going to land you into a major sustainable advantage over a longer period of time.
Now, sir, you mentioned about this on sustainable competitive advantage. Now, if I would love to ask you, you had been working with the switchgear division of Siemens. Now, Siemens has been an industry which has constantly been adapting to the future changes. They've been dominating the industries. And where did you find this, that Siemens had implied the competitive advantage and that they have sustained in the long periods of time?
You know, the first thing, if you look at healthcare, let me go division by division. Look at the healthcare division. Okay, we came up with different products. We came up with dental products. We came up with CTs. We came up with MRIs. And each time we came up with different product extensions to the same product, which was one up above the other. Who are our competitors? In this, we had GE as the competitor. We had Philips as the competitor with us, and many more. I don't remember them, but these two were the main for healthcare. And therefore, you needed to come up with a better product. Otherwise, you are competing with everybody. Yeah, you would get into what we normally call as the blue ocean, red ocean, green ocean theory. You know, and then when you get into the red ocean, there are competitors all around, and then you are lost. So if you want to get into innovations and get a higher product, you go to move away from the red ocean theory and move towards. And how do you get that? You get it through only innovation. Similarly, in the switchgear division also, we started creating higher bands, circuit breakers with different varieties. Now, many of the innovations were done in Germany, which were then adapted out here, so that it suits the Indian. Now, what is the biggest challenge that we had out here? The biggest challenge was when we take the German product, you know, the voltage fluctuation in Germany is hardly anything. Whereas in our case, in India, for example, the voltage fluctuation can be as high as even 20%, plus minus. And therefore, the switchgear must be adapted to take care of all these things. And this is where we started gaining over Schneider and other products. Because their voltage fluctuation, they could not adapt to this particular level. So these are small things, whether it's an adapted innovation but you got to adapt it to this country level. And similarly, when we came up with UPS, uninterruptible power supply systems, now it's in Germany, you would say, why do you require it? Because for you have never seen a blackout in terms of power outages. But for me, I have a power outage coming every now and then. And when I was there in Siemens, you know, we used to get power only for about 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day. The rest of the time it was all darkness. And some of the industries cannot operate that way. They need continuous power. So they have a diesel generator set coming in. And then to take care of the
Was it in Germany? Was it there, like a power outage was there in Germany in the 1980s?
There is no power outage. There was never a power outage in Germany. But in India, there is heavy power outage. Even today, there is a power outage. And if you go to the rural areas, if you go to some areas, you will find you don't get power for about 8 to 10 hours a day. Why? Because the demand is so high and the supply is so less. So what do you then do? You create a diesel generator set, but then diesel generator set allows for fluctuations coming in. So you create a UPS. And this UPS must take care of 20%, 25%. And this UPS, there are companies which said, please give me a UPS with 8-hour battery backup. Can you imagine? Because the industry cannot run with without a power for so many hours. Startup becomes really difficult once the industry shuts down or the machine shuts down. Starting the machine again will take up 3-4 hours. So you can't allow that to happen. Typically, for example, we talk of the steel mining industry. In the steel industry, for example, you cannot allow the machines to stop at any point of time. They keep it continuously running, and then you need a UPS for that sort of a time. So you got to adapt these things, so that you can. And then it's not just enough. You look at the nuclear power plant. Nuclear power plant, they are asking for 3 backups. 3 backups, because in case the power goes off, the first one comes in. If the first one fails, then the second one has to take up. The second one fails, the third one has to take up. So there are also 3 backups. Now this is something which is unheard of in many of the European countries like Germany and France and all these countries. But this is very common and we have to supply them.
In fact, since you said nuclear, Europe has completely shut down the whole of nuclear plants as well, and including.
Yeah, but that has come now, Vivek. Yeah, it's only recent. I'm talking about what it was earlier. Since you asked the question when I was in Siemens.
And I think you should, because this is because you mentioned sustainable competitive advantage. And today, smart production is there coming inside. And we see Siemens also jumping into smart production.
Yes. Because you have to with the help of smart production, what is happening? You are able to reduce your cost of production. Ultimately, the aim for any organization is to reduce the cost of production. Because when you talk of value to the customer, you're talking of benefit to price. And price is a function of cost. Lower the price, the customer sees a higher value for the product. And how do you lower the price? You can only lower the price when you lower the cost. So whether you use smart production, when you use smart production, your cost of the product comes down. Earlier we used to do everything manual. Today everything is automized. Earlier, let's go back. When I did my PhD, Vivek, you will be surprised when I tell you this. There were no computers. And the university, Mumbai University, they said, Gopal, we need 10 copies of your thesis. Why, I didn't know, but they said they need 10 copies of the thesis. What did I do? I used to typewrite it. And when you typewrite it, you can get only 4 copies at one time. So that same page had to be typed 3 times. And the error in the first batch and the error in the second batch are different. Whereas now what happens? Simple Word document, MS Office or something like this, and immediately you can take out 100 copies at one time. See the amount of time that you're saving. And this is important for you. And when you save time, you save money. Because money is a function of time that is going into. So when you save time, you save money. When you save money, you save cost. And then you have more play, because if you say this is the price of the product, if I bring down my cost, I get so much of profits. If my cost increases, then I get only so much profits. So ultimately, why are businesses are there? Businesses are there to make money. Let's be honest to ourselves. We can say we are there to serve the nation, we are there to do, but at the end of the day, you are talking of shareholders' value. And what does the shareholder want? He wants money. He wants a form of capital gains, or he wants a dividend from you. And both come in from the fact that when you make profits, you get all of this. And not only that, Vivek, there's one more thing which I wanted to tell you here. Yeah. When you make profits, you can spend a part of that profit into giving dividends and all of this. And the balanced profits that you have, you use it in your R&D to innovate products.
So that you sustain down.
So you keep a cycle, and when you start investing in R&D, you can either create a product extension or you can create a new product. And then this new product or product extension that you have increases your volume, you reduce the cost, you make more money, and then the money goes back again into the cycle. So it's a cyclical process, and this is something which all big companies understand. And this is where the key lies.
Now, can I ask you this question? Because you said two interesting things. One, you said is value innovation is very important. And now, India, China have created a very strong new idea of business for the West. West always believes in positive sum competition. China and India have the advantage of economies of scale. Zero sum competition arises because they fight based on pricing. Now, when we believe in value innovation, it's about how much of value that I give, but then I also charge more money from my consumers so that I increase the quality, but I charge more money. Now, the world also sees another one perspective wherein I fight based on pricing. And that's where do you see this, the future of the world, especially in these times? Because do you believe that what India and China do as a fight with low pricing, is it healthy for the business, or how do you see this?
See, for this, Vivek, you got to go back to my customers. And when you look at the customers, there are two types of customers. One type of customer is the billionaires, the super rich and things of those who talk in terms of good quality product, high valued product, priced product, more good technology, etc., who require these innovations. They form almost about 30% or 20 to 30% of the total customer base. The balance 60 to 70% believes in price. And that is why Prahlad, the great marketer, he said, the market in future lies in the base. Because look at it like a pyramid. The volumes are at the bottom. And as you rise up on the pyramid, volumes start decreasing. Now I gave you this example of the sachet. 1 rupee, a construction worker who earns only about 50 rupees a day. Now 50 rupees means half a euro. I'm deliberately giving you an approximate price, half a euro. Now he cannot afford to buy a 2.5 euro based shampoo, though you will tell him that, oh, this can last for 6 months in your case. He says, I don't have that money to buy that. And look at the world today. How many people are below the poverty line? There's a large number. India is one of the countries where there is a large base of this thing. Africa is another country. The whole of Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Myanmar, they're all looking out for what? They're all looking out for, I won't say cheap products, they're looking out for low priced products. They do not want super duper things, they want simple low price. And therefore when I even talked about innovations, some of the innovations which we call in India as jugaad. Yeah? These are what? You just connect a wire from here to there and then start working. Will that be appreciated in the US? Will that be appreciated in the Western countries? No.
But don't you think so? It's killing down the whole of the scales of innovations. Because to just give you a beautiful example, Tesla. When Tesla came in the market, it really changed down the whole perspective of electric vehicles are seen inside. And then at some point of time, when BYD comes inside and produces cars at $10,000 a car, and here Tesla is producing at $30,000 or $40,000 a car. Now that's killing the whole market. And not just that, now the whole lot of the Chinese electric vehicles, from BYD that begins at $10,000, NIO that comes at $20,000. Now Tesla is now, or the American companies are now failing down to fight against the Chinese competitors. The European companies are not even there innovating, because they know that even before we start the race, China has finished the race point. Now don't you think so that this is something which is healthier in the short run for the economy to grow and make some money, but in the long run the industry doesn't even grow mature But before that, the industry has totally been killed by a lot of players inside like a red ocean market.
How do you survive in a red ocean market? One of the key things for survival in the red ocean market, because you talked about red ocean, and what you're saying is exactly moving in that direction. You survive only by innovation and coming up with newer and newer products. What is Tesla doing? It's coming up with driverless vehicles. Yeah, so in that, what do? You bring in also energy efficient. Yeah, they're talking in terms of hydrogen vehicles.
Hydrogen combustion engine.
Hydrogen, yeah. Somewhere down in India, I heard there's some research is going on using air as a base to produce power for the vehicles. What are you doing with all of this? You're only trying to move up and up the ladder. If you allow me to use the word, earlier we used to make chapatis. Chapati is an Indian staple food, Indian bread, which is a flat bread, and it's on. And how do we do it? After we grind up wheat and we make it into a form of an atta, as it's called, okay, and then you roll it. And today what has happened? While many of the lower income people still roll it, but the higher income people, they go for machinery, which can produce the chapati directly. So I just put the wheat flour in it, put water, salt, everything. The machine turns it out, makes it into a dough. Yes, the word is dough, D-O-U-G-H. It makes it into a dough. And then it also brings it out in the form of a round. And if you go to Amritsar, where the Gurudwara is there, they make 100,000 chapatis a day. And then that machine itself, they move it down so that it gets fried on the fire and then it comes out as a chapati. There's hardly any people there. Innovation does not mean that your cost will come down. Innovation means cost will come up in the short run, but over the long run it has to come down. Because people want good products, good quality products, but they are not willing to pay you the price that you are asking for. They say, please give it to me. And believe me when I tell you, if you don't innovate, somebody will innovate. Somebody will innovate. And the minute he innovates, then you are starting from scratch, whereas he's already gone forward. And this is exactly what's happening in China. Before you can innovate, that fellow has already finished the race. Why? Because you are sleeping. You are not looking at the market. You are not trying to identify what exactly does the customer need. The ladies in the house were telling, earlier, before 10 years back, even at that Gurudwara, in Chandigarh, the Golden Temple, yeah, there were hundreds of women sitting out there and making these chapatis by hand. And everybody said, how can you do this? It's so costly, it's so time consuming, it's so much of labor for the women. And here comes a machine which does it. And this is the key. Now you could improvise on those machines. Make it good, make it faster.
I think but the same examples which I should also convert and put it down, sir. I was surprised by the fact in that the gigafactory of Tesla's gigafactory, which is in Berlin, the time taken to produce one Tesla car is 43 seconds.
Yes.
Now, that's where it's about the scale of manufacturing and how do I increase the scale of manufacturing. And when they found out that, like, how much is the time taken by Mercedes, which is like the 200-year-old company, it's taking 90 seconds. So that's where, if you notice, sir, for every 2 cars that Tesla is producing, Mercedes is producing 1 car. And thereby, Tesla's sales, manufacturing, production has dwindled up.
See, Vivek, you are talking in terms of economies of scale. Economics of scale in the short run and in the long run will help you reduce the cost, because when you say 43 seconds and 90 seconds, actually you're reducing your cost compared to the Mercedes one. I'm not talking about the price, because remember, price is something which I can fix, but cost is something which I'm actually incurring, right? So when you look at that from that angle, for example, okay, lower the cost, as I said earlier, lower the time taken to produce a product, lesser is my cost, I can make a higher profit depending on the price that I'm placing. I can use that higher profit to bring about further more automation or innovations or whatever I want to do. Take the case of 3D building.
Today the industry speaks about this.
Yes. People are no longer looking in terms of using architects to produce buildings and drawings and this and that. They are using a 3D drawing to build buildings and thereby reducing the cost because you are reducing the time. And when you go into economics of scale, obviously the economics of scale helps you in reducing the cost to a large extent. Because when you double the production, your cost of the product drops by almost 30%. Empirically, I'm not saying as it will happen in all the cases. The cost of the product of manufacturing doubles. When you double, the cost of the product of manufacturing reduces by 30%. So the more volume you produce, the more it's an exponential reduction which takes place. At some point of time, it becomes stagnant. That's a different story. You don't go up to that level, but it's in between you stop and say, okay, this is enough. And that's what you use. And why does it happen? Because your fixed costs are getting spread over a larger volumes. And this is the key, because if you want to have competitive advantage, you can have it through economies of scale. But if you want to have sustainable competitive advantage, it can come in only from innovations. It cannot come in from economies of scale, because that is copyable in a day or two. When I say day or two, maybe 1 year, 2 years down the line, you have an advantage, but that is copyable. But if it is innovations, and innovation backed by IPR or patent or something, then you become the king of the whole thing. That exactly is the key.